October is recognized nationally as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. The Family Advocacy Program is here to help victims of domestic violence and to help people learn to cope with situations before it even becomes a problem. They offer a variety of services, including counseling, support groups, training, and more. Take the pledge to end domestic violence. Tree of Hope represents the lives saved and the lives lost to domestic violence. Join us in taking a stand against domestic violence. Wear purple on October 20th to show your support for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I'm Jeff England, and you are listening to the Fort Polk Podcast. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you are listening to this podcast. I appreciate you coming back and listening some more. Today, we have some very special guests in the studio. I have from the Family Advocacy Program over at the Army Community Service, Christina England. I actually know this person. She is the Family Advocacy Program Manager, and Aida Rivera, the Family Advocacy Program Specialist over here from ACS, all the way on the other side of the corner. Good morning, Christina. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm living the dream. And Aida, glad to have you in here.
Good morning, Mr. Jeff.
I heard Christina wouldn't come in here without you.
Hey.
Yeah,
she's Batman and I'm her Robin. That's what I'm going to say.
We're a team. It goes good with the theme for Domestic Violence Awareness.
Oh, well, absolutely.
Which is we're stronger when we stand together.
Stronger when we stand together. I remember when we had an Awareness Month run. And it was walk a mile in their shoes. And all along this whole mile-long course, we laid out crosses with names of domestic violence victims and old pair of shoes, just to get people to pay more attention to what is going on and how much we should be standing united against domestic violence and abuse, because we are stronger when we stand together. But anyway, you are from the Family Advocacy Program. I happen to know a lot about it because you're my wife.
Married. We're married. You
Yes.
get to listen to
So I get to hear all about family advocacy and all the programs that are over there. And what gets me upset is that so many people around here think it's more of a punishment to be sent to family advocacy when all you guys are doing over there is trying to help and educate people and coping mechanisms and classes and all this stuff. So why don't we start off with giving me an explanation of what the Family Advocacy Program actually is?
So the Family Advocacy Program is actually a program that is designed to help families build resiliency, to develop coping skills if they don't already have healthy coping skills, to improve coping skills they already have. We help them to accomplish their mission, whether they're a soldier or a family member. We know that spouses and children of soldiers also serve. And we are there to give them tools for their toolbox. The analogy that I use is we all have a toolkit. Some of us only have one tool in that toolkit, and it may just be a hammer. And when you come to family advocacy, we are giving you different tools, and it may be a Phillips flathead screwdriver. It may be a wrench. It may be a tape measure. But when you come to the classes and the services, workshops that we offer, the programs that we offer, we give you those different tools to fill your tool bag up, and you can choose which tool may apply at any given point in time. And we are there to just help families develop those different skills, coping skills, problem-solving skills. Because the biggest, I think, misconception that people have about family advocacy is that only those type of people go and need help. The reality is that we are human beings and we are all interconnected, independent upon each other, whether we like to believe it or not. We don't all have the answers to everything. We all need help. As a society, we have no problems identifying if we break an ankle and we need to go to a doctor and get a cast. There's no stigma attached to that. And we don't judge people for going to the doctor and getting help for a physical ailment. As a society as a whole, we tend to judge people if they go and seek help or seek guidance for issues that they may have. And that issue can be as simple as, I have a teenager and I have a teenager. Parenting a teenager is difficult.
Yes. Oh, my.
And we don't always have the answers, whatever the issue may be. So you can go to the Family Advocacy Program, and we are not there to judge. And we are there to give guidance and help and classes that will teach you to fill up that tool bag. And maybe when you are at your peak of frustration for whatever that issue may be, that you can reach in that tool bag and say, you know what, this Phillips screwdriver isn't working. Let me reach in and grab that level. And maybe the level will work in that situation. And it may help a situation from escalating. So we encourage prevention before situations escalate, and then intervention is needed.
See, the way I look at it with the tool analogy is that when all you have is a hammer, everything's a nail. And
That's a good point.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
And yeah, you need all the tools. The other thing that I was thinking just as you were talking is doctors. Doctors have gone to school for years to become professionals, and yet they still go back and train. They still go back and learn more because there's always something else to learn. Just because you're a parent doesn't mean that you have all the tools or all the coping mechanisms or anything like that. Just because you've been married 4 or 5 times around here, and you can still learn something from classes or just reading a book or anything like that. I know that there are some programs that you guys have offered in the past over there, screen-free marriage and new parent support. And, everybody needs a little help sometimes. We all need a little patience. Yeah, it's a song. Anyway, but yeah, so there's a lot of classes, a lot of offers. And you guys also do a lot of activities, or
Right.
you have in the past. I know that. And just recently, even at the hayride, you guys were out there and helping everybody out, and had a great turnout out there. It seemed like a lot of fun. But
It was a lot of fun, Jeff. And one of the most significant parts of it is that we actually got folks to take the pledge, because without the community, we're not going to be as effective in preventing domestic violence and child abuse as we are just 2 people. Like Christina said earlier, we're interconnected. And the more the community is aware that domestic violence is an issue, that there are mechanisms put in place to assist families, because we're not here to penalize the family because they don't have the answers to a particular question. We're not here to point a finger at a parent who may have disciplined the child a little bit excessively because they didn't understand that discipline is this and then power and control is something else. We're here to provide them with that knowledge. Knowledge is power. It becomes power when it is applied. So the more knowledge they have, the more powerful they become as a parent, as an intimate partner, etc. But when the community is involved and aware, it becomes even more powerful because they become our legs, our hands, our feet.
It takes a village.
It takes a village. It certainly does.
And I know that once something happens, it changes gear. It changes gear. And it turns into a reaction thing. But for your side, and there is 2 sides of family advocacy. There's
Correct.
one on the hospital side,
Correct.
which deals with
Treatment.
and after something has happened. But you on ACS side is there to keep it from reaching that side. So even if you don't think you have a problem, or you might think you have a problem, it doesn't matter. You can go over there and you can prevent it, because that is the importance. So what exactly is the importance of prevention, and I mean, it's an obvious question, but why prevention? Because I honestly don't like being reactionary. I like being proactive instead of reactive. And I imagine that's what the Family Advocacy Program is actually for, to
Right.
keep people out of trouble. They don't, before you get in trouble,
Right.
don't do this, and this is how you can deal with it.
And I think the importance of prevention is to encourage people to come out and realize that they're not alone, that there are other people who have the same struggles, who have the same questions, who have the same needs. Like Aida said, and you said, we're all in this together. And we all have similar questions. And the importance behind prevention is that we're giving people the skills and the ability to cope better in similar situations, so that the next time an issue comes up, they have that ability to handle that situation maybe a little more effectively, and that it doesn't escalate into something more than what it was intended to be. And then they can go out and they're educating their children, they're educating their spouse, they're educating their neighbors. And the more we educate families, they then turn around and they educate other families. And the more we prevent and the more there is prevention that occurs, the less intervention is then needed. And that is the beauty behind prevention, because then you have more resiliency amongst families, you have less violence, you have less depression, you have less isolation, you have a whole bunch of less of the negatives that people associate with family advocacy and more of the positives that we know our families have. We tend as a society just to focus on the negatives and not look at the positives. And I think one of the biggest things and one of the biggest confusions is people think that, oh, it's just those people who are involved with family advocacy. And the reality is that anybody at any point in time can cross that very, very, very fine line between being them versus those, between being the person who, quote unquote, has it all together and then all of a sudden just snaps.
Yeah, I've said it, and I know other people have said it. Our kid has said it. I didn't mean to go that far. It's just a snap. It's just a one little step over the line, and all of a sudden it changes, and it's like, okay, I got to back off.
Right.
And I mean, I get mad. You've said I get mad.
We all get mad.
We all get mad.
And anger is not a bad feeling. And that's one of the things that we teach in our prevention, our anger and stress management class. Anger is not a bad feeling at all. Feelings are not bad. It's what we do with our feelings, how we react and how we behave that can be either good or bad. And one of probably the biggest misconceptions with domestic violence, in particular, since October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, is one of the biggest judgments is, well, why doesn't she leave? She must like it. That must be why she stays. There are a myriad of reasons why victims of domestic violence stay in violent relationships. And probably one of the biggest reasons is, and the biggest misnomer out there, misconception, is that it's always bad 100% of the time. The relationship is always bad. And that is not the case. These relationships are not 100% horrible all the time. There are good times in those relationships. It doesn't justify the violence and the fear that people live in. But we don't know what goes on behind closed doors. And if relationships were 100% bad all the time, people probably wouldn't be in them. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you agree?
I would like to go back a little bit about why prevention, and I want to look at it from a mission readiness perspective. because we want our commanders to also be able to say, hey, these programs are available to assist you. We understand and we know commanders are responsible for the health and well-being of soldiers in their command.
And it's always nice to have as much available to you and as much at your fingertips. And the commanders are, they can do a really good job just by being aware of all the things that are available over at FAP.
And that not everything is an intervention. We have these prevention programs. The more engaged these soldiers are in prevention programs, the less engaged commanders are in taking action to correct that soldier, to do this or the other. The more engaged these soldiers are in these classes for parenting, these marital classes, the less commanders have to sit in front of these soldiers counseling them about certain events.
And you would think that that is a lot easier and a lot less paperwork to do. Is say, hey, man, I've got some classes I want you guys to go to. It doesn't mean that you're on the bad list or anything like that, but go over here, check this out, and go to this class. We'll give you the time that you need to go to the class. It'll get you out of whatever.
Right.
And I want to see commanders using prevention more than waiting till it's too late and then having to up to drum somebody out of the service or put somebody in jail. I mean, it's so much easier to wow, I'm glad I knew that and I was able to, yesterday I would have been totally different, but now it's like, it's just something.
Prevention is easier than punishment.
It certainly is, and it takes less time.
What is it? It's an ounce of prevention is worth a pound
of cure.
Of cure, yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, what's this year's Domestic Violence Awareness Month, or DVAM? So if anybody sees DVAM, that's what it means, is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. What's this year's theme?
United against domestic abuse. We're stronger when we stand together.
Ah, look at that. I fell right into that one, didn't I?
You did.
So are you going to have, it's like, I know there's going to be things going on throughout the month. I'd like to let people know some of the things and they can go check it out and stuff like that. I do know that we're going to have some sidewalk displays over at Building 350, which is the headquarters building. What kind of displays are we expected to see over there if I make it over there? Well, I go to 350 all the time, so.
So both at Building 350 and the ACS building, Building 920, which for those who are not familiar with where the Army Community Service building is, it is 1591 Belle Richard if you're in Louisiana, or for people who are not from Louisiana, Belle Richard Avenue. Building 920 right next to the Arts and Crafts Center. It's where soldiers come for newcomers as well. We are having sidewalk displays. Did you know? Just facts about domestic violence, just to educate people and bring awareness to the facts of the impact of domestic violence on our society and the toll that it takes on us as a nation. So those will be located at Building 350 and ACS throughout the month of October.
Did you know? Could you give me an example of did you know, like a sneak peek into the sidewalk displays?
Did you know? Statistics. So many men are victims of domestic violence. 1 in 6 and so forth. Men are victims of domestic violence as well.
I think that's an underrated problem that we have. And I think a lot of it stems from like the way I was raised. It's like, you do not hit a woman. And what do we do? What am I supposed to do if I'm abused by a woman? First of all, it's embarrassing. Second of all, how do I fight back? Because there's only 2 outcomes and they're both bad. It's either you beat up a woman or you got beat up by a woman. There's no in between. And so what is this person supposed to do? What is a man supposed to do in a situation like that? And thank God I'm not in a relationship like that. And thank God that I don't have to worry. But
And you're perfectly right. There is a stigma associated with male victimization. And I know that Christina will speak to that as well. The bottom line is for men, they can be victims as well. It's really interesting that some of the dynamics that we see when we have a female victim are also present in victimization where males are concerned. And as far as family advocacy as a program, we don't care which gender you are. Domestic violence is unacceptable. So a male that comes into our offices for assistance is going to get the same quality of assistance, care, and concern as a female would.
And the training.
And the training.
And that's what some of your classes do. And they're geared towards, what am I supposed to do? Or how do I deal with this? I mean...
what is abuse? Because a lot of people don't know what abuse is.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like beating your child in public. Is that abuse? Well, it matters how you do it. Are you swatting him on the butt? And what happens if you swat your child on the butt and somebody comes up and says, "Hey, you can't do that." And it's like, well, stay out of my face. Or, but we can get into that. What, that's February or April?
April
is, and you'll be back for that, right?
But one of the questions that we're asked all the time is, what is domestic violence? And most people in the public at large only see domestic violence as occurring towards women and occurring only in a physical form. And you indicated earlier about the run walk that we did several years ago. I believe that was in 2016, actually, when we did it downtown in conjunction with the city of Leesville. And we changed the name to a walk in their shoes to be inclusive of men who are also victims of domestic violence, because I think that's important for men to have a voice as well. And to realize that men can be victims as well. And there is not just physical abuse. There is also emotional abuse that occurs within domestic violence homes. And there is also sexual abuse. You would be very surprised as to how many victims that we work with in the public at large that does not realize that it is possible for a spouse to rape their spouse. They do not think that is a possibility. So sexual abuse within marriages occurs. And then there are children in these homes who are also witnessing the domestic violence. And those are the silent victims. They don't often have a voice
and what I've noticed throughout my life is it's a cycle. And, when children are witness to domestic violence, they grow up with more of a problem and more apt to follow on, keep doing it, and follow in their parents' footsteps.
Without intervention, without somebody to say that this is not the type of healthy skills to have in a relationship, which is why prevention. Why prevention, to get back to and come full circle to the question about why prevention. That's why we have parenting classes. That's why we have relationship classes, to teach what healthy parenting skills are, to teach what healthy relationship skills are, to teach, teenagers. Teenagers are dating, right? Kids nowadays are dating at much younger ages than what the three of us started dating at. I look at our child, most teenagers now, and I think, my son's almost 17 years old. He's never grown up in a world where he hasn't known technology. And technology has exposed kids to all kinds of different experiences that we didn't necessarily have to deal with when we were their ages. And with that comes a whole new set of problems and challenges for not only the kids, but parents as well. So how do we navigate that as parents? How do our teens and our preteens and our little ones, how do they navigate that? So we have those classes. That's why prevention, so that the world is ever changing, and to keep up with that is very difficult. And like you mentioned earlier, we are constantly having to educate ourselves and come up with different classes that meet the needs of our community, that meet the needs of our singles, of our couples, dating couples, of our married couples, of our single parents, of our step families. So that's why prevention on the classes that we offer.
Well, that is breaking the cycle. I am a firm believer that, proper education, proper training, getting some help beforehand and getting this all out.
Absolutely correct.
But in the opening, I mentioned the Tree of Hope. Mm-hmm. The Tree of Hope, and there's also another one, a Children's Garden of Hope. What exactly are those?
So the Tree of Hope is a concept that we came up with last year, and the purple ribbon is a symbol for Domestic Violence Awareness Month and survivors of domestic violence. So we came up with the idea to create a tree and have everybody sign purple ribbons, just signifying either a victim or a survivor that they're aware of domestic violence. And they can sign either their names, or they can put an inspirational message for victims or survivors of domestic violence to honor those who have experienced domestic violence. The Children's Garden of Hope is just the children are doing handprints, and so they are flowers with little garden pots, and so they are the hope, because the hope is that our children will grow up in a world and in a home where they will break that cycle of domestic violence, and that they will have a home that is free of violence. Children deserve to live in homes where there is no fear for them when they go to bed at night.
Well, that's awesome. Now we have the theme is Take the Pledge. Now, exactly what does that involve? I mean, is it literally taking a pledge, signing something,
you
saying,
are signing a pledge? You certainly are. October
how awesome is that?
Recognized nationally as domestic violence, and we want the community, like I stated earlier, to get involved, because when we're stronger when we stand together. So basically, what we're having the community do is read the pledge and just agree to take a stand to report any known or suspected domestic violence to the reporting hotline, etc.
And if I wanted to take the pledge, where could I go to do it this in the month of October? I believe there should be some place that I can go take the pledge.
Yes, you can take the pledge at our building, Army Community Service Building 920.
All through October.
All through October.
And if I can't find ACS, where else will you guys be too?
Then you can come and take the pledge at the DVAM information table that we're going to have at the main exchange on, I believe it's the 14th of October.
Well, that's great. Now, you guys offer... We've been talking about offering classes and stuff like that. What are, do you have any special classes coming up in October?
Yes, we do.
Oh.
And we're talking about, because prevention. Okay, so we know that we have a cycle of violence. Uh-huh. And we know that if we catch these individuals early on in relationships,
before anything happens,
and teach them, or maybe something has happened, because that's the only thing they know to do to resolve conflict. And we provide them with certain skills and abilities. When they know better, they do better. So we're trying to go even further back from that. And basically, how do you recognize a healthy relationship? What are the signs of a healthy relationship? Sometimes you ask the question, why do I keep attracting these jerks? Well, we're going to tell you why if you come to our class, how not to fall in love with a jerk.
Yeah, that reminds me of growing up. It's like, I'm a nice guy. I like to think that I'm a nice guy. I think you think I'm a nice guy. Okay. And
yes, I do. I just wanted to make you struggle there.
You're making fun again, huh?
Yeah.
Growing up, it was always these girls that I liked were always going out with the jerks. It's like, and then I'd have to listen to them complain. It's like, why can't I just find a nice guy? It's like, because you're not looking for one. It took me until I was in my 40s before I could find a girl that liked a nice guy.
That is a valid point, my son. And he asked the same question. But there are certain things we need to look out for. And you're right. You're talking about the bad boys, what I call the bad boy syndrome. Sometimes girls like a little bad boy, and so forth, et cetera, et cetera.
On that side of the note, I did pick up on my wife with my motorcycle. So
Oh, that was your little bad boy. It was the motorcycle.
so I did have the bad boy
little bad
streak.
boy.
Or at least I was faking it.
So what we're trying to do with that class, Jeff, mainly is to teach our young people how to recognize the signs. And the heart sometimes takes over the mind. But the more educated you are and the more able you are to how can I say, recognize those signs, the less able you are to fall into that kind of relationship.
Oh, that's
Right.
great.
And we also have 7 principles for making a marriage work. So if you're already married, we have that class as well, which is a really good class for couples to attend, to just like as a refresher, just how can we make our marriage stronger and make our relationship healthier, a little bit stronger. And, we all need that help.
We're arguing all the time. It's like, well, here's why. But you got 7 principles.
Right.
Okay. And then
Because one of the things that class teaches is healthy conflict resolution. I think people think that conflict is a bad thing. Conflict is not necessarily a bad thing. How we resolve it in a healthy manner is what is taught in that class, amongst other things.
yeah, conflict for me is trying to figure out what to have for lunch.
Or dinner.
Or dinner. Now, we've talked about our children and keeping them involved. Not everybody has children, but some people have little fur babies.
Yes.
You can't forget about the pets.
No, we cannot.
You don't want to abuse them either. I know you guys have something coming up for the pets in Halloween and all that stuff.
Yes.
Come on, tell me. I
Yes.
know you do.
So this one we are very happy with, and I have to give a shout out to my victim advocates for coming up with this one. So shout out to my victim advocates for this one. Pause for a Cause. We are having a virtual Halloween pet photo contest.
Halloween.
Correct. So from 17 to 28 October, you can submit your photos of your pet, and winners will be announced on Halloween.
Where
so
would we,
dress your pets up.
Where do we submit the photos? Is that going to be online, or do we have
Online
to
on
walk in
Family
a
Advocacy.
Polaroid? Okay, so Family Advocacy,
Facebook.
the
page.
Facebook page.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. And now you were mentioning how not to fall in love with a jerk. That's an actual class, right?
That's an actual class. It's going to be a brown bag. We're going to have 3 sessions of
That
it.
class better be full.
We're going to have 3 sessions, the first on the 5th, the second on the 20th, and the last one on the 25th. Yours truly will be facilitating. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, yay.
And it is during lunch, 11:30 to 1300 hours.
And where would they go to sign up for that?
They would call our main ACS office.
And that is 531
5 through 1938.
1938. Gotcha. There's a phone number on here that's like 1941. I forget what one that
That's the
is.
front
That's
desk.
the front.
Oh, that's the front desk. Ah!
So that is the main number to ACS 1941. If you call 531-1941, they will transfer you over to 531-1938, which is the ACS Family Advocacy phone number.
Okay, great. Because I remember one phone number because it's World War II. But I guess 1938 would be the same thing too. And we also have, I did mention October 20th. I mentioned that. Wear purple.
Correct.
I mean, it's the easiest thing to do. It shows solidarity. It shows us standing together, and it tells me that you listen to the podcast.
Correct.
Yay.
Yes.
So October 28th. 20th. I'm jumping ahead. Is national, not just Fort Polk.
Correct.
National Wear Purple Day.
Correct.
And that signifies, well, first of all, purple.
Purple is the color for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. It's the color for many things, but it's also the color for Domestic Violence Awareness
And
Month.
that's why you'll see the purple ribbons and
Correct.
and purple shirts and purple pants
Correct.
and purple hoodies.
And purple slides.
Purple slide. Everything's purple.
Just no purple Crocs, please.
right.
But
And I would also just like to say that we also have 2 hotline numbers that are available for family advocacy. So if there is ever anybody who is a victim of domestic violence, we have a victim advocacy hotline phone number that is in operation 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I have 2 victim advocates that are on call, and they answer that phone number. That is area code 337-424-7494. Again, that is answered by victim advocates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you are a victim of domestic violence or you know somebody who is, you can call that number and speak directly to a victim advocate 24 hours a day. The other number is called the Hope Line here at Fort Polk. It's the installation reporting point of contact. If you are a victim of domestic violence, child abuse, or child neglect, or know somebody that you suspect is or know for sure is a victim, you can call 337-531-HOPE or 337-531-4673. And that number is answered by the clinical side of family advocacy. So a licensed clinical social worker is on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they will take those calls as well. And I would just like to say that the clinical side of family advocacy does an excellent job with counseling services for families that are struggling. And part of their job with counseling individually and group wise is what we call tertiary prevention. So through doing counseling with these families and getting them back on the road and working through some difficult situations and issues they may have, the hope with the counseling that they receive on the clinical side is that it is preventing further incidents of violence from occurring as well.
Excellent. And that is 531-HOPE. That's a little easier to remember around Fort Polk. I mean,
Around Fort Polk.
Yeah. Now, their installations, military installations around the world, all have some kind of family advocacy program.
Correct.
All Army does. I believe all Air Force does.
Correct.
The Navy and the Marines, I'm not really sure of, but I'm pretty sure they would.
They do.
Why wouldn't they? So are there any, what other activities? We went over some activities that are going on. Are there, apparently there might be proclamation signing. What I've seen proclamation signings in the past. So what exactly is that?
So the proclamation signing is something that all installations do. And we do it here at Fort Polk with the commanding general and the garrison commander, and it is just done typically at the beginning of the month to bring awareness to the importance of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And it's the installation commander and garrison commander's pledge and acknowledgement that we will have a installation that is free of violence, that they stand behind prevention, that they stand behind families being able to live in homes that are safe, and acknowledging that they will do their part in encouraging commanders to get their families and their soldiers involved in prevention activities so that we build a more resilient force.
Oh, that's great. And we have here, of course, with your program is mainly on the prevention, and it's mainly with classes. And I do know of some classes that are coming up and some that are ongoing. We've got the anger, stress, and crisis management, which will help you learn how to handle and how to manage all of the stress and anger, and to keep you from going too far. You also have that 7 principles of making a marriage work, and then you also have the new parent support, because being a new parent is very stressful. We have a new mom in our office here. I was a new stepdad to a 6-year-old.
And I
10
think
years
that's
ago.
important to point out is you can be a new parent at any age and at any stage. So every time you have a child, you're a new parent.
Yeah, it was
and every
a big
child
change
is
for me.
different. And New Parent Support Program is a great program. It is for expecting parents and those who have children up to 36 months of age. It is a voluntary program. And you can register to participate in that program to do home visitation services, where a licensed clinical social worker or registered nurse will actually come out to your home and do home visits in your home. If you choose not to engage in the home visitation portion of the program, you can still attend classes that they teach, such as baby boot camp, which is for parents who are in their second or third trimester. That is a wonderful class where typically mom and dad both attend. And they will learn basic principles like what happens when you bring baby home. How do you feed the baby? How do you diaper the baby? How do you clothe the baby? What is an appropriate crib for the baby to sleep in? How do you appropriately handle parenting issues that come up? They also have new parent support walks and talks that occur on Wednesdays. Again, you do not have to be enrolled in the new parent support program to participate in baby boot camp or walks and talks. That's every Wednesday. You can check out the Facebook pages for these classes and events. They also have what to expect the first 4 months. For families with babies up to 4 months of age. And these are just some of the parenting classes that are offered that talk about typical growth and development and what to expect at that particular age and stage of your baby's growth. So New Parent Support Program is a great program for new parents. As you mentioned, step parenting is a very challenging and unique parenting situation in and of itself. And Aida has looked at, and we have come up with, and she will be teaching a new step family class.
Blending
Step families. So that is a need that we know is out there because that is a very difficult situation for step parents to be in, because often you will hear, "You're not my mom, you're not my dad," and that's a very difficult situation. And so how do those families blend together and work through a multitude of different issues?
dynamics, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard that before.
Yes.
So just to wrap things up around here, we've got all kinds of classes, all kinds, and activities, and there are other services at ACS. And to sign up for any of these classes or just to get more information, we can call 531-1938.
Yes.
Correct.
And if you're interested in the New Parent Support Program, you can call 531-9573.
Correct.
So we got 1938 and 9573. So I think that is just absolutely wonderful. I would love to take a stand and be united against domestic violence. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Christina, Aida, thank you for coming in and sharing the Family Advocacy Program with us. And that's going to wrap it up for another nice little thing. Thanks again for coming in. And we appreciate everyone coming in. And I am Jeff England, and we are out of here.